Okay. So when it's time to perform, what we all want to do is like catch that downbeat, right? Like when the boom, we want to be there with whatever that note is, whatever it might be, we want to be there for that. And so I get to acknowledge the four of you for catching the downbeat. So congratulations. That is awesome. That is awesome. Boy, it's fun to see you. Roger is a voice teacher with the International Voice Teachers of Mix. How long have you been with them, Roger?
I think 9 years now,
Nine
actually.
years. And I've met Roger at a couple conferences of the IVTOM group, which is really fun. And this is really cool to be able to introduce you. So here, Kristen. Kristen and I've had a lot of great exchanges over the years, and she is an incredibly talented singer-songwriter. She has got some books that she's working with, and she can illustrate. Oh, it's amazing what she can do as she illustrates things. And so, Kristen, about 5 years ago, you were a student in my performance psychology class.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is really fun to see you there. And I'm glad that you're here tonight. Emma is also a former student from my performance psychology class. And one of the things that I've needed to take what I'm doing to the next level is I need some assistance with social media and all that kind of stuff. And Emma is taking care of that with me right now. So I thank you very much, Emma. And then Joe, let's see, he can sing, but he also does the auctioneer kind of thing. So he can do that. And I met Joe some time ago with a project that we were trying to put together. And that's where I got to meet him. So wonderful. Now, all of you know who I am, or at least had some experience with me. And, one of the things that's exciting about this is tonight I get to support really my life goal and vision, and that's creating freedom on stage and in life for artists, for us, for you. And so tonight, with a group this small and it's kind of a casual conversation that we're having here, boy, it's just gonna be fun to start out with some questions. So, Roger, what brought you here tonight? What's the question?
Well, I've suffered from my own anxiety issues a lot.
Yeah.
And have techniques, and so I enjoy hearing what other people's experiences are and find out what things tend to work for them, because everything that I know doesn't necessarily apply to somebody else, because in all of our experiences every one of us it developed in a unique way. And so some of my go-tos are I use transcendental meditation to help calm down.
Wonderful.
And so I like what other people have dealt with and how they approach it.
So you deal with the meditation kinds of things. Do you use any other tools?
I rely on breathing. So I do 4 seconds breathing in through my nose and count to 4 and then count to 8 breathing out. Do that until my body finally says, "Oh," so I can physically induce my body to relax.
One simple little suggestion I might make anytime you do a breathing exercise. So let's just talk about those for just a minute, because they are great tools. One of my favorite things to do is start with the phrase, "Body, I'm safe. It's time to relax." Now, if you were in the presence of a rattlesnake and that activated that stress response, you'd stay pretty activated until you said, "Whoa, it's gone far enough away. I am safe now." Then at that point, you start to deactivate, wouldn't you? And so just starting a breathing exercise with the declaration, no matter how activated you are, is, "Body, I'm safe. It's time to calm down. It's time to, slow down and relax." So that's one thing I would really add to what you're doing there, Roger. as I've worked with breathing exercises personally, as I've watched my students and I coached my performance psychology class with them, the breathing exercises can be really helpful to just lower that anxiety level a little bit. And that's really what they're good for. To really get in a state of deep relaxation, that takes a lot more of the meditation kinds of things to really set that up. I'm going to take 30 minutes to really calm myself down, get myself into quite a trance, really. And sometimes that can work really well in a pre-performance setting, but more often than not, we're in that pre-performance setting, and here we are reacting. And that's something we need to do. Annie, welcome. Annie is a marvelous voice teacher. She is in the LA area, and it was just pretty exciting. Thanks to her, I think I picked up a presentation with IVA in June, so that's going to be a lot of fun. So Annie, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So the breathing exercises. Let me just share with you a couple of my favorite breathing exercises, because these are things that we can all use. One, I call this the 10-finger breathing exercise. Some of you already know this. Starts with body, I'm safe. It's time to relax. Then you're breathing with the belly, the diaphragm. Actually, I know most of you are singers, so you know about that belly breathing, the diaphragm thing. Okay, so you're breathing with the diaphragm, so make sure you unlock that so you're breathing with it. Then you grab your little finger like this. And as you inhale, squeeze it firmly. And as you exhale, you say, body relax. Next finger. Body relax. Next finger. Body relax. Body relax. Next finger. Body relax. Next finger. Body relax. Next finger. Body relax. Body relax. Body relax. Body relax. So that's just a really fun little breathing exercise, and there's lots of variations of that. And the most important part about this is that you do something. Roger, you mentioned the breathing exercise where you like breathe in, count of 4, and breathe out to the count of 8. I've never seen any research suggesting that breathing in on the count of 4 and breathing out on the count of 8 is better than breathing in on the count of 8 and breathing out on the count of 4. I mean, all the different variations of breathing exercises, there's just so many of them. But what we do know is when we start to manage our breathing, when we take that on and say, okay, I'm going to start to focus on breathing and relaxing, we're declaring to our mind, our body, that we are calm, we're calming, we're safe. What an important thing to do. Now, the one thing you don't want to do is expect an immediate relief or release of all anxiety just because you did a breathing exercise. See, that can flash on faster than a heartbeat. Boom. We're now in that mid part of our brain, and that's a flood of neurochemicals. So it's really a fade away of those neurochemicals. I've talked to too many people who have experienced a stressful moment, an anxiety, even a panicky moment, and they start to do the breathing exercises, and 30 seconds later, it hasn't worked, so they abandon that. It's like, that's not working. What else can I do? And most of the time, they just fight through that. So being able to recognize that as an important thing, and to be able to say, okay, this is what I need to be able to do right now, and that's really to start to calm myself down. So a couple thoughts on breathing exercises. Hey, we've had just a couple more people join us. Stephen, it's nice to meet you. You're on.
It's good to meet you too.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me join.
Steve is a studio owner up in Farmington. And he's got quite a budding studio there, mostly string players. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah, cellists.
Cellists. Okay, cellists. And so he and I are going to be doing a workshop in a little bit here. So I'm excited about that. I'm really glad that you're here, Steve.
Thanks.
And Esther and Catherine, I don't know that we've met, but I am so glad that you're here. If you'd like to introduce yourself real quickly, that'd be great.
Hi, I'm Esther, and I'm a singer-songwriter, and I'm on Annie's list.
Okay.
So that's how I found out about this, and it sounds super interesting. I have to apologize because I might need to leave before the session is over. So I apologize in
Esther,
advance.
so glad that you're here. Wonderful. Catherine, if you'd like to just introduce yourself real quick, that'd be great as well. If you can do that. If not, that's okay too. All right. Boy, our time can go by very, very quickly here this evening. Another question. Yeah, Emma.
One thing that I struggle with, whether it's a live singing audition or I do film most frequently now, I'm a film actress. And one of my biggest goals and one of the things I struggle with most is just being present, because I'm either thinking about past performances and how they have gone, or I'm thinking about the future, how this current performance is going to be perceived. Do you have any tips for how to be present?
Oh, what a great question, and what a real struggle for all of us. How do we be present? We can go to a restaurant, and how many people are sitting across from their kids or their spouse or their friends, and they're in their phone? Like they're not present to the people around them. Now, one thing I know about the concept of presence, a child at play is absolutely present. Like they're lost in their play. If they're digging a hole, they're on the playground equipment. They're just, here we are. I was with my grandson. We were flying to all the planets we could name, and we were just having a blast. I wasn't thinking this is like ridiculous and silly and we couldn't go there. He wasn't thinking that. We were just lost in the play. We were so present to that. And so the first thing there, Emma, is that awareness is really, really powerful. The next thing you want to do is say, oh, wait a minute, I want to be present. Well, present to what? And this is where I really work a lot with mindset. And the idea that we can design a mindset. This is how I want to be present to this experience, present to this audition. Okay. So Emma, give me a word or two that would describe, you're in your best performer self. You're going into this audition. What kind of words would you want to be living in that moment, experiencing in that moment?
Focused, empathetic, all in.
Okay, I love it. So I'm all in, I'm committed to this, I'm focused, I'm connected to my environment, I'm responding to my environment. Now, that'd be a great place to be. So one of the things we don't do enough is intentionally design our mindsets. I want to be that. And even if we do, because we all want to be performing great, right? But are we trying to protect that? Are we trying to feed that, enhance that? Most of the time we're not. So a comment from somebody could like totally take us out of that mindset. Or the thought of, well, what if I don't get this role? What if I mess up on the hard part? Then suddenly we go into our memory and our background, and suddenly we're recalling those times where we messed up and where we failed and disappointed and felt really stupid and bad, all of which start to trigger more and more anxiety. So another real important thing here to look at, Emma, is the difference between a fear and a danger. There will be very few dangers you will not be present to. See, those are called unknown dangers. So you're walking around the trail, you don't see the rattlesnake, it doesn't even buzz, but it bites you. Like on that instant, you would be totally present to the experience of the rattlesnake bite. But to be hiking and being afraid of rattlesnakes and wondering if there's a rattlesnake under every rock and behind every bush and around every turn. That would be a pretty uncomfortable hike, a pretty anxious hike. So the thing you want to really be careful with and aware of is the fear and the danger are not the same thing, but our body basically responds the same way. And so just recognizing that reaction from a fear. And so, oh, I'm reacting to the fear of mistakes on stage. Am I making a mistake on stage? Did I just make a mistake on stage? No. Okay. Well, we get to practice that famous let it go kind of thing, or shift the attention. So when you start to say, this is not dangerous, this is my fear, fears can be faced, fears can be managed. If you break down the word fear as false evidence appearing real, like there's not a danger here. And so to be able to start to say, I need to get present. What am I present to? I'm backstage for an audition. I want to be in this show. This is what I'm choosing to do. This is what I'm prepared for. Oh yeah, I'm prepared for that. And somewhere in my preparation, I designed a mindset. I'm going to be present. I want to be present, right? I want to be expressive. I want to be bold. I want to be free to play. Oh yeah, that means I'm present in this moment. So again, a really powerful thing to be able to do and recognize that when we go into any form of victory, that's the future, or defeat, see, we're not present. Another nice little catchphrase to recognize. This is not about victory or defeat. This is about being present. And usually if we go into the future, it's about a fear of something embarrassing, a fear of something devastating, a fear of something disappointing is going to happen. Or in the past, it's all about regrets and remembering things. But we can also see where going into that sense of victory, the famous football player in the end zone, he's all alone, the ball's coming toward him, and he starts thinking, I'm going to win the game. The glory's going to be mine. I'm going to catch the ball. He drops it. Because he wasn't just thinking of catching the ball. It was like, I'm going to win the game. So again, to guard that sense of victory or defeat, it's like, no, let's be present. And we always just have so much more fun when we're present. So that's just a great question. Anybody else got a question?
Hey, John, I don't have a question, but I have something brief to share as an experience that might be instructive and illustrative of your point.
Go ahead, take care of that, Joe. Just make it kind of quick.
So about 20 years ago, I sang the national anthem, and I bring up this picture because if some of you don't know who this is, it's Cal Ripken Jr., one of my idols. But the national anthems of the country and at that convention, the most nervous I've been. Not you all. I do call auctions, fundraisers, and that can be. Anyway, my biggest concern was forgetting lyrics, and I forced myself, without having the word, to just go out and do it. I did have a mindset like talking about it. I thought in a group of 1,000 of my. Anyway, I forced myself to do it, and I used a few tools. One of them, you just to have the courage. I wasn't afraid to fail. So it turned out to be a great experience, although the most fearful of my life. I'm really grateful I was able to lead and follow through.
Thank you, Joe. We've all had those experiences where that sense of fear has stopped us. And courage is all about moving forward in the face of fears. So again, fear is not the enemy. It's just that we're physiologically activated. And when we can bring courage and tools to it, then we're moving forward. Great, thank you. Roger, what's your question?
As you were describing the mindset and being present, a couple things came to my mind. So it sounded a lot like the way in which you're designing your concert or your performance, how you want your song to go. If you want props, it sounds a lot similar to just programming a show. but making it more personal.
Oh, what a great thing to think about. What a great comparison.
And then another thing, I remember watching a TED Talk, and they monitored, thousands of people for, a long time, like weeks, and they found out that even if you are doing something you do not like to do, you will feel happier by actively engaging with it.
Yes.
Does that make
I lost you.
So they monitored people, and they would ask them throughout the day, what are you doing? How do you feel? And they noticed that people who were busy, I guess, doing something were generally happier than people who were not doing things, even if it was a task they didn't like.
You are actually describing some research by a guy named Csikszentmihalyi. He is the father of flow theory.
Okay.
And he'd actually call people and have them record what kind of state of mind they're in random times throughout the day. And again, they found that those who were most happy and enjoyable in terms of what they were doing weren't those that were all excited about things. It was those that were present to what they were doing. And that's basically what they were present to. A couple of weeks ago in my performance psychology class, we were talking about this concept of mindset. And I had students share what are some of the things about being a student or a developing performing artist, what do they dislike? And one of the students said, practicing. Well, this is a negative mindset about practicing. And so every time they walk into the practice room, they are creating all this, I don't like doing this, I don't like doing this. And just by being aware of this as a default mindset, no one designed that mindset. No one said, this is a good thing to think. This is a great thing to be able to prepare yourself to hate practicing. No, it was just kind of a default kind of thing. And just by recognizing, oh, I can become present, breathe in. Now, notice this. Think about this as an action of being present. As you inhale through your nose, notice a coolness as you inhale and a warmth as you exhale. Just do that a couple times. Now, most of us rarely pay attention to the slight variation of temperature there. But if you were to make that breath, that coolness, like the most important thing ever, like I want to feel that. This is going to be the most important thing in this moment of the breath. You would immediately start to refocus and get present. And so being able to design a mindset is really all about preparing ourselves mentally. It's about bringing a mental mindset to what we're doing, and then we get to practice those skills. And we keep practicing those skills. And sometimes it's really challenging because there's lots of stuff in our head about what's going on. Other things that could be bothering us. One thing I've done many times with performers that helps in a pre-performance setting is to do a basic brain dump. It's kind of like you could do this with a friend, a coach, and I've done this where I've actually had people going into auditions, and just before they go in, I'm like helping them clear their space, kind of dump their brain as they're getting ready for the audition. You can also do this in writing, and that is simply to say, what's in my head right now? What's in there? Whoa, I got to take my car to the shop. It needs to be repaired. That's okay. What else is in there? Okay, I've got stuff about something with a child or with the studio or at work. We can have so many different things that are in our head. And the challenge of performing is to say, I want to clear the space out. So we would start about like this, and we want that funnel to narrow. We want to clear everything out except the doorway to the stage with that positive mindset that you designed. And so there's issues with the dog. Okay, well, that's important to take care of, but not right now. So I can let that go. Yeah, Kristen.
I would love to add on to that I found that just doing that, I'm not sure whether it was some picking that up in your class or where I picked that up from, but I found that doing that in the morning when I need to perform for the day, being mom, being wife or whatever, if I woke up with anxieties or anything, and if I do that brain dump, I mean, it's like night and day. I when I wake up with some issues, that's the number one thing I go to make it better. And so, yeah, that's that's just an amazing thing to do for performing in any act in life.
Well, what's that allowing you to do is be present to what you're actually doing. Okay, I don't need to be worrying about this, or this, because that's not the role I'm in right now. I'm in the performer role. That's the role I want to be in. So let's set them aside and let's focus on bringing the energy to the performer and that mindset and that experience. Yeah, Joe.
Can you explain how that brain dump is done? Not writing, but just in the mind or in your course of actually executing that?
Okay, let me just look at it this way. If we were to say, so Joe, right now, what are 3 things that are in your brain? 3 things you're aware of right now that's part of your life that you're trying to manage.
So I'm my wife's in a meeting I'm supposed to be in, so I'm kind of thinking a little bit about that.
Okay.
I'm working on changing my body, so right, eating the right foods, and my work. I started a new job, and so that's kind of in my head as well.
And there would be lots of things associated with all of those that are in your space. And so to be able to start to say, okay, what's most important right now? What is the one thing that is right here, right now? Well, you made a choice not to go to that meeting. Okay, you're not eating dinner. So right now there aren't choices in terms of, do I eat the hamburger or do I eat the salad? Okay, you're not even at work. But yet those 3 elements, and this is what our brain does, these 3 elements are kind of in your space right now. And it's funny how we have to make decisions around these kinds of things. And so I was taught my class last night, and I'm going to class and I'm getting my briefcase out of the car, and I basically brushed up against the car next to me. So I had white, khakis on, and I had this big just slide of, okay, this is now really dirty. Like this car needed to be washed, and I helped wash it, right? Well, I had to fight through the whole class period, worrying about what my students were thinking about me, standing up in front of them with an obviously dirty pair of pants on. Now, at some point, you have to make decisions about, do I pay attention to this? Is this important or not right now? And so I got to practice just saying, that's not relevant right now. There's something so much more important. And it's that deciding of what's most important right now. And that's to not worry about what they're thinking about me and how I dress and take care of my clothes. It's like teach the class or to perform. And that's very true in terms of performers when some kind of malfunction or problem occurs on stage. Something gets dropped or knocked over. Well, you manage it. You make the decision to figure out, do you leave it there or do you pick it up? And you go on. You don't sit there and wonder what's going to happen if. So again, a lot of this comes right back to attention, focus, and control, and how our attention wanders and how it gets distracted and how it gets pulled here and pulled there. So many young performers right now, and I can see this with the students, I'm talking to them, their cell phone is a liability because they've got an hour to practice and it might ring 5 times in that hour or 5 texts in that hour. And so that's 5 times in that hour they stepped out of the practice room, and they're losing time, not only practicing, but getting in and out of the experience of practicing and getting back into it. It's very costly. So yeah, there's a lot of things we can do with that. Good question. Yeah, Kristen.
So how do you counteract negative self-talk? What tips do you have for that?
Well, the negative self-talk, the monkey chatter in our mind, the noise that just shows up. There's so many different ways to look at this. And one of the most important things is to recognize that self-talk is probably not true. Like it's a habit. It's like, it's a first response. So that's one thing that I like to talk about in terms of self-talk. It's just a first response. Boom. That's it. Never doing that again. I can't do that. I'm never going to solo again. Never going to audition again. So humiliating. And then it goes into that self-berating, because it's not, you're really not a qualified musician. You really can't do this. And those voices can be very real and very painful. I'm having a lot of fun right now with a presentation on the imposter syndrome. And what that really is a voice saying, you're not good enough. You can't really do this. Who do you think you are to be doing that? Well, there are different parts of us. There's different experiences. The different circumstances of today tap into different memories and different things that we've experienced from our past. And then it's just reminded. I mean, we don't have to relearn that rattlesnakes are dangerous. You know, when I've encountered about a dozen rattlesnakes in my traipsings around Utah. And, you know, it's like, I know that sound. I know my response. I'm already moving before I really even recognize there's a rattlesnake there. It's like, boom, it happens so quickly. So looking at automatic thoughts and that our self-talk is automatic is a really important thing to do in a short kind of thing. The second thing in terms of automatic thoughts is recognize you don't want to go with a first response. So this is where if you've designed a mindset earlier in your performance experience, I'm being bold and confident. I'm going to be expressive. I'm going to be excited. Oh, I just had this thought about total humiliation and embarrassment. Oh, wait a minute. This is negative self-talk. This is a habit. And this is where I like the simple strategy of pause, breathe, reset. Now, what would you reset to? If you've established the mindset of being expressive, confident, and bold, that's your reset target. Okay, so I'm thinking I can't do this. This is too hard. Why am I even thinking about this? Pause, breathe. Let's reset. Let's let that go. In short, Kristen, our words become the roads we follow. If your words say you can climb that tree, chances are you're going to climb that tree. If your words say, oh, I can't climb that tree, you're probably not going to climb that tree. You know, your words say you can audition. Your words say it's going to be a scary audition. It's going to be a great experience. I'm going to see where this audition takes me. I'm hopeful. Again, different words, different paths. So it's really important to catch those negative self-talk stuff.
So basically, we can look at the words being us fighting half the battle. We can fight half the battle with just our words alone, and then it makes the rest of it a little easier.
You know, our words might even be more than half the battle, because that creates the framework. It creates how we perceive things. Is this an opportunity? Auditions are terrifying. No, auditions are the gateway to opportunity. And so recognize that, and we've got to practice that, because our self-talk is really, it's really neural pathways that we practice over and over again. And just like practicing juggling, Kristen did a delightful piece for me on who I'm learning to juggle. It was a little thing that she put together, because I teach my class how to juggle. Well, this year I've done something different. Next week, when we meet again, it'll be the third time they've had a chance to juggle. So I taught them 2 weeks ago. We juggled last week. And they're all just smiling like, I'm getting better at this. I haven't even practiced all week, but I'm better than I was last week. Again, those are all neural pathways. And so thinking of our language and our self-talk as neural pathways is really important. Annie, what's your question?
For someone who has also a little bit of experience with your like the 5 steps to peak performance, and has a performance and then does their sort of self check-in after the performance to see how, like, to go through how it went, and this is coming from actually a client today that I worked with, and she said, you know, I know that it's often that sometimes, you know, John says, well, don't go with your initial reaction, like, but she said, but she said, you know, I feel like I'll have a performance, and I'll actually walk off and think that went really well. That felt really good. And then a few hours later, she finds herself picking it apart and that happened, or this you know. And I was just wondering some tips or reminders to sort of, and maybe it goes along with the self-talk thing too, but like when that kind of thing happens, sort of as time passes after the performance.
Right. Annie made reference to what I call the 5 stages of peak performance.
Yeah, stages, sorry. Yeah.
And as a tool, what this does is it puts the performance in the context of a process rather than an event. And so, you know, your student, Annie, is probably like 100% normal. Like we have these patterns, we're used to doing that. We kind of like review it. Oh, that didn't go so well. Well, see, when we put things in our brain and look at them like, well, that wasn't good. Okay, thank you, Esther. I feel seen, like you get that. Okay, got it. Anyway, as we recognize this, it's harder to, okay, how do I manage this? And so we were talking about this negative self-talk post-performance. So being able to say, wait a minute, what do I know to do post-performance? Look at what worked. Okay, I know to do that. Okay, let's look at what didn't work. See, just saying what didn't work is very different than what was bad, what was wrong, what was embarrassing, what was terrible. Tuesday in my class, I had students talk about their worst performance ever and how they rewrite that and how they look at it from a different perspective. And it was amazing to, you know, they got the audition, they got into the School of Music, they got the role, and they're thinking about the one part where they really messed up. So there was 2 songs, a part of the audition. The first song didn't go so well. Second song went great. She got in, and she's still beating herself up for not doing that first song perfectly. It really pulls into lots of big habits about self-talk, self-value, those kinds of things. And just recognizing there are more things we can do than just beat ourselves up. But it's a really ugly, the post-performance bashing, as I call it, it's just a really ugly habit.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that she said about not listening to your first reaction, for me, I feel like that might pertain more to like when someone says, hey, come up here and join us on stage, then maybe your first reaction is, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. But I would say, wouldn't you say if her first reaction after the performance was, that was pretty good, that's a first reaction that's okay to trust?
Well, acknowledging that you're satisfied, acknowledging that it was pretty good. I think that's a beautiful thing we can acknowledge at any time. In the worst performance ever experience, they're acknowledging this as a bad performance. And years later, they're describing it again. It's like, you know what? It was actually a victory. I actually was able to move forward with that. Even though I made this big glaring mistake, I got through it fine. In fact, there was a guitarist who was on the jazz band, and it was just funny for him to talk about how he felt like his worst performance was this one song. And when I asked him, did anybody come up to you afterwards and say, man, you really messed that part up. That was horrible. I can't believe you did that. He goes, no, everybody just complimented me. You know, but he was the one that was stuck in that negativity. So again, we're seeing the challenge that we have with negativity. And so when we're post-performance, even days, weeks later, oh man, why did I do that? I can't believe that. Well, we get to catch that and say, wait a minute, am I being present to my life right now? See, what happened 3 weeks ago or 3 hours ago? Am I using this to support and build and work and move forward? Or am I getting caught in more negativity, dragging more pain around with me that's only going to cause me more problems? So, you know, with your student, you've got a really good chance to practice okay, the pause, breathe, reset. And to be able to just say, okay, become aware of this. And when you are reacting, okay, if you're aware, that's when you can move into a position of choice. I have the choice. I can do this. I can pause, breathe, and reset. Oh, I just have lots to learn, and I'm engaged in learning. Okay, I can move forward with that. So,
Thank you. That's
oh,
helpful.
you're welcome. Roger.
Yeah. Wonder if you talk a second about like the relationship between the body and our mind.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's worked sometimes for me. I had a Star Spangled Banner experience too at the Salt Lake Community College, and I was mid song. My mouth was wide open and sound was coming out, and I had no idea what I was singing. Like no clue. And
Yep.
So, and I had kind of prepared myself a little bit, Brienne, and I try to explain to my students that we practice, so it's literally in our bodies. And then I just say, I trust my body, it knows, and I can get my mind out of the way a little bit.
Right. Those are interesting experiences, and I think most of us as performers have had things like that happen. I know I sang the third verse to a song 3 times once, because I don't know where the first and second verses went. I just sang the third verse 3 times, and it's like, okay, I just kept on going. And I imagine in a few seconds you'd picked up where you were supposed to be and you were going forward. Is that right, Roger?
Yeah, because I relaxed the exact moment that I needed to move on. It was there, and it went on like nothing had happened. Nobody ever even knew except me.
Yeah, and so what a neat thing to be able to say, I can trust myself. And see, we can have very quick shifts of attention during a performance. And suddenly it's like, do I know what's supposed to be next? I got this, just trust myself. Okay, oh, there it is. When you talk about the relationship of the mind and the body, great question. It really is quite, it's just false to assume there's a distinction between the mind and the body. Like we have the mind's up here, body's down here. No, this is all. Esther, thank you for joining us. This is all our body. Now, when we recognize, when we get activated by something triggers our stress response, boom. Okay. This is really a survival response. And so you're now in this state physiologically says, your body believes it's an absolute life or death danger. Like there's some kind of threat going on. And so it's going to basically take whatever you know how to do in terms of fight or flight as more important than the words to a song, the dance steps that you've been practicing, whatever it is. And so recognizing that fight or flight response can really interfere with memory. A lot of people have had experiences where they've forgotten, they didn't know what note to start with, or they forgot what they were doing, and they feel like somehow they have a bad memory. No, they got activated and they didn't have a way of managing that experience. And Roger, the way you described it is just like, trust yourself, you got this, you know this song, and it was there. And see, what you did there is say, let's keep this song moving forward. Let's stay in this. You didn't freak out and go, oh no, I forgot the words. I forgot the words. A student one time shared how when he forgot the words to his song, this was back in the days of Napoleon Dynamite, but he slammed his palm into his forehead and literally said out loud, stupid idiot. Now that was a conditioned response on his part. Boom, stupid idiot. No, that would not impress any judge or anybody, but that was not a coping kind of response. So understanding increased heart rate, respiration, cold, clammy hands, sometimes dry mouth, understanding distractibility or hyperfocus, understanding how our attention's shifting, how our words, our emotions are managed. So this is all part of managing our mind and our body. And, you know, one of my favorite interventions is simply the word, so what? I'm stressing out. So what? Like, you're here to sing. You know, you start thinking I'm stressing out, I'm all activated. Oh, this is scary. This is dangerous. This is bad. Oh no, oh no, oh no. That doesn't help. That just feeds it. And so again, recognizing that as we are performing and trying to perform and doing our best with that, we want our mind working for us and with us, not against us. And sometimes we feel betrayed by our body. I know I can do this, but my body freaked out. Well, that usually means there's something else going on. And it's probably how you set up that performance. And that's one of the things with the 5 stages Annie talked about. I see really make a huge difference with that. So great. Other questions? That's kind of fun. I appreciate your questions. They're great. Looks like Annie has to go. Thank you, Annie. Glad
I've
you
got
tonight.
follow up on what the discussion on self-talk.
Uh-huh.
And like, you know, after a performance, you were saying, you know, what worked maybe as a first go-to.
Yeah.
But along with that, getting to the place where, yeah, I did a good job, or because then you're assigning a bit of a judgment at that point. And I don't know if many people, other people struggle, but sometimes, you know, I struggle to receive the compliment.
Yeah.
And so to some degree, I'm not giving my own self permission to receive the compliment. So, you know, accepting the permission or giving oneself permission to say, yeah, okay, it was good.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, what a neat thing to be able to do. Mark Baxter, I know Roger knows Mark Baxter, world-class voice teacher. He talked about at a conference, okay, the expectation of the musicians here, they know what it's going to sound like. They know how it should sound like. They know how every nuance and phrase and everything fits together. And more often than not, when you perform, we're somewhere lower than that. Now, as long as we stay within the professional window, nobody is going to notice and nobody's going to care. Even the professional who's just going to smile and laugh and said, wow, I forgot the words to that song. Oh yeah, I remember now. Let's pick that up and move forward. Okay, they're still performing, they're still smiling. And so part of what you're recognizing is, okay, it was less than this perfect kind of thing. And how do I manage this gap? Is a real important thing to do. And the other thing is to recognize the post-performance bashing, being critical, being negative to ourselves. That is a very ugly habit. And as an ugly habit, we've got to be aware that we practice these habits, they are just going to get stronger and bigger. And again, to start to look at self-talk and to be able to say, all right, I'm back in that ugly habit. I'm back in that ugly pattern. Is there something else I could do? And what would that be? That's that pause, breathe, reset. So wonderful. Joe.
Just real quick on that note, I performed at an ecclesiastical function once, and I was singing a new song that had not been heard. And I, at one point during a verse, I added like 7 words that weren't supposed to be there. And sure. I just kept going, sang the second verse, chorus, finished. That was probably 30 years ago. And it's funny, I laugh about it now. I was so embarrassed then. Nobody knew the song, so it's not like they knew, but I was able to turn it into something that was fun. I share the story now. And you're talking about being kind to ourselves. I just turned it into a humorous thing. We make mistakes, and now it's funny instead of castigating myself 30 years later that I didn't exactly say the right words.
You know, a lot of the worst performance ever stories that I see in my class, had we not had a conversation about it, had we not said, let's turn this into a victory, they'd be dragging it around for a really long time. And whenever I bring this, you know, worst performance ever up with a group of musicians, oh yeah, I've got one. Boy, I remember on this. Yeah, Kristen.
Yeah, if you don't mind me sharing, I'll just say that when I did that assignment in your class, I mean, it was life changing for me, because a year prior, or was it 1 year or 2 years? I think it was 2 years prior to that. I had had a traumatic performance with a band I had been with in the past that was so traumatic. I was reliving the emotions and the anxieties and that the trauma from that event over and over every single day, for that whole 1 or 2 years, whatever it was. And doing that process of writing out the worst performance and dissecting it and seeing what was emotion and what was fact, and then reframing it into reframing the emotions into, oh, okay, well, that was funny that happened. I mean, it blew my mind how the day, or my life after that, it was free from that trauma, reliving that. So yeah, just say how well that works. I mean, I
Oh.
can't share anything about my trauma story without sharing how awesome that assignment was. But
Wow, thank you, Kristen. Oh, I want you to know how awesome Kristen is. She has this wonderful song. It's called My Brave. It's called My Brave. It's on all the platforms out there. And it's just really an incredible story of finding that brave within us and moving forward. And so, yeah, check that out on YouTube. Kristen J. Lloyd, YouTube. Is it My Brave or Finding My Brave? Find My Brave.
The song is called My Brave, but I think it might be on YouTube as Find Your Brave. Or, I mean, if everybody would like, I can go and add the link to the chat so everybody
Go ahead.
can.
Please do.
Okay.
Please do. Hiram, glad that you could make it. Hey, Catherine. Hello.
Hi, sorry, I was trying to listen in and not be distracting at the same time. I do have a question about, you're talking about a mind body, and I'm just wondering tips about what can you do about how, for every 2 signals from our brain going to our body, we have 8 to 9 signals coming from our body to our brain. So what can we do? Do you have tips on just with that nervous system, what you can do with you're in this situation? I get crazy, and I deal with like adrenal issues with right? So like kind of in fight or flight for also for my clients and things like that. But recommend with hands or things when you're already, I sometimes will say, if you need to move something, take a step, because at least your leg's a big muscle, so it's pretty easy to. But do you have ideas about that?
You were kind of cutting out, so hopefully I've got your question. If your question basically is, if you're in an activated state and this is going to interfere with your performance, what do you do?
Yes.
Is that pretty much your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Like you're just in it.
Here's just a simple little trick. What if you just simply started to run in place? And you start telling yourself, I'm running away, I'm running away, I'm running away. Whoa, now I'm safe. I mean, you're tricking your brain. You're basically telling your brain that I just ran away from a dangerous place and now I'm safe. And we'd experience the exact same thing, and I've experienced this with live rattlesnakes. The other thing you have to do is recognize we're not really good. Most of us haven't, question, who has seen their parents meditate?
No.
Nope. Okay. Who here has a daily practice of meditation?
Kind of.
Kind of. Okay.
When I need to do damage control.
Okay. Now, doing damage control is a beautiful thing. Okay. But doing the relaxing, doing the meditation, I know like Roger talks about the transcendental meditation. See, doing that on a regular basis, you're training your body to respond to you. You're training your body to say what you're saying and thinking is most important, and you actually have the skills to relax. Now, when we get triggered by something, it's a flash on. It's not a turn off. It's a flash on, and it's a 20-minute fade away. And so a lot of what we need to be able to do is tolerate the stress response. Okay, I know what's going on. So what? Breathe. Let's focus on the performance, focus on the story to tell, the gift to give, the song to sing. that's more important than whether your hands are a little shaky. And so the idea of taking a 10-minute relaxation break every day. And of course, when there's an issue for damage control, we work with that too. Like, okay, I'm really stressed out. I need to work with that now. You know, sometimes the body wins. These stress response reactions can be really big, and a lot will also depend on what they land on, because whatever kinds of negative or bad experiences we've had. I mean, I literally made the mistake one time of having this nice looking gym bag on a stage, and I'm going to go over to my prop, and I was basically pretending that I was picking up a live rattlesnake, and I reach in this bag and I'm going like for this big plastic rattlesnake. A guy gets up and runs out of my auditorium. I won't ever do that again. Now, he had actually been bitten by a venomous snake. So oh man, I felt so bad. I threw him full out panic attack, kind of like. So there's some stuff back there sometimes that can get in the way. But the most important thing is to not be afraid of it, normalize it, and just start to breathe with it, and it starts to fade. Yeah, Kristen.
Is it okay if I share a short experience that I had that really kind of opened my eyes to just that? So I went to the bank one day to, go in and do my business. It was in a grocery store as well, Anyway, I went and pulled into the parking lot, and I looked and I saw a vehicle to basically one of my former abusers that I had broken ties with. And I was like, I saw their truck and I was like, oh my gosh, they're in there. And my fight or flight response was through the roof. And I was like, I've got to run. I got to get out of here. I am never going to go to this bank again, even though it's the closest one for like 30 miles, So my brain is going through all these irrational things that I'm going to put myself way out of, I'm going to inconvenience myself just to stay away from the possibility of seeing this person's truck. But then I stopped myself and I thought to myself, well, just like you've learned in, all about trauma and everything, from your class and other places, this is just your fight or flight response. Right now you're just wanting to run away. So let's let you run away somewhere for a bit and calm down. And I was curious to see if I would be able to go back to the bank, when in that moment I was like, there's no way, I am never going to come to this building again. But I went and drove away, found a building that was, halfway across town that I'm like, I feel safe here. I feel like that person wouldn't know I was there, which of course they wouldn't. They probably didn't even know I was anywhere in the vicinity. And I just sat and meditated for a bit. And after I had done that for 20 minutes, the fight or flight response had calmed down. And then I was like, could I go back to the bank and do what I need to do? And I was like, yeah, I could do that. And I also gave myself a plan. Like if I saw that person, what would I do? And once I did that, I was like, I can go into the bank, I can do this. And it was so empowering to think that, wow, I was able to take control of that situation that I normally would have been, terrified. It would have disabled me and made me go 30 miles away to bank. And I was able to take control of it.
Kristen, you really shared a wonderful story of the tools that you had available to you to make a difference for you. Joe, I'm going to have to put your hand on hold here because we're just running out of time. I tried really hard to start on time and end on time. First off, I want to thank all of you for coming. You can see my email address, john@johnskidmore.com. If you'll just email me, I will send you a relaxation exercise for showing up tonight. And this is just a great one about the 5 stages of peak performance. So email me, I'll send you that relaxation exercise for showing up. 2 things. Also next week, I'm doing a webinar, and this was through a colleague in Canada, actually. And you can find information about this on my website. It's about a booklet she and I put together that's basically 30 days to your next performance. To really think about this in terms of what could you do in the next 30 days and how it outlines the performance process, and it looks at those 5 stages. And so please look at my website. You can see more information about that. If you'd like to come to that next week, that would be great to see you there again. Let me just share one story in closing. There's a young man who had gotten a college scholarship to play his cello. And he was excited about this. And this was in February. And in May, he's asked to perform at his high school's awards assembly. A nice little honor, not a big deal, but it was just a nice thing. Well, his performance that day was so embarrassing. It was so horrible. It was so ugly. And that first response and all that negative self-talk and whatever history got brought up with this, and that thought of, I am never doing that again, stuck. Now, I wish I'd had a chance to talk to him 3 days after that performance rather than 3 years. He literally had tears rolling down his cheek as he was telling me about giving up his scholarship, and he quit playing his cello, tragedy, and he recognized it was because he didn't have tools and skills. So I want to thank all of you being here tonight, finding tools and skills that are going to help you move one step further through whatever kind of performance issues you're running into. And so keep looking, keep searching, keep finding tools, because there's nothing quite like having the right tool for the job. And, you know, Kristen, you shared how you were using your tools for the job. Wonderful. So I thank you so much for being here tonight. And I'm going to be doing this again next month as well, do another kind of chat with Dr. John. So look out for some emails with that. And I've got a lot of fun things happening. So I'm just, you know, let me know how I can be of support to you, what you're doing. And in closing, think of this simple phrase, because this is what peak performers do. They risk, they can fail, and they can risk again. That's what performers do. They can risk, fail, risk again. And that's because they look at the performance from this part of their brain rather than going into the mid part of the brain. Risk, okay, I failed. Well, I'm not doing that again. I'm out of here. I'm done. Hey, have a wonderful day, wonderful evening, and look forward to talking to you. It's great to see a lot of friends again. This is wonderful. So thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.
Joe, it's great to see you again.
Thank you
You
very
too, John.
much.
Steve, I'm glad you made it.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation.
You're so welcome. Hiram, glad you made it.
Hey, I was working, but I'm happy that I was able to hop on there at the end. So
Well, I'm glad you did. It's
sounded
nice
like
to
it went
know,
pretty well.
you know, it's nice to know that my pitch in the class worked, right?
Yeah,
Brought somebody
showed
here.
up. I showed up. I was here. So,
Awesome. Thanks, Hiram. Glad you can make
yeah.
it.
Hey, we'll see you Tuesday.
You bet.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me, John. It sure was a lot of fun.